Ja, het geht.
Welcome everybody, welcome to the Luxembourg Times, welcome to Time to Talk. We have a very special guest today, Prime Minister Xavier Bettel. Welcome to the Luxembourg Times, we're very happy to have you here. We have some questions prepared for you. We took quite a few questions that people submitted to us online from our readers. Unfortunately, in the interest of time, we cannot take questions from the floor today, but maybe afterwards there'll be a short moment to talk. Prime Minister, we have a lot of questions for you, and the topic that I would like to start with is Luxembourg's role as an EU hub. I think that's an issue that contains some of the challenges that Luxembourg is facing, like in a nutshell. The European Court of Auditors in August sent a letter that's saying that it was absolutely necessary to raise EU salaries in Luxembourg. That's because the cost of living here is 15% higher than in Brussels, but the pay is the same. Now, the Commission is trying to solve this issue, but what is Luxembourg doing to tackle this issue and to keep its relevance as an EU capital?
I can recognize your former job. The fact is, it's a topic we raise up all the time. You know, I'm not responsible for salaries of EU civil servants, but I'm raising it, and you know that there is the question of the differentiel, always, which is a topic, but I promote Luxembourgish place, but I cannot decide for the EU Commissions who takes the decisions about the salaries of the civil servants. But it is an important topic because I don't want to get figures for jobs who are able to be in Luxembourg, but no one comes to work in Luxembourg. So it's challenging. But as I just told you, I'm not in charge of the salaries of the Commission, but raising up the question all the time.
No, but it is a geopolitical question almost, because Luxembourg sees parts of its power at the outside from being an EU capital. How much is it really threatened by this fact? Because when we speak to representatives of the EU institutions in Luxembourg, they say really nobody wants to come, and we're begging people to come. Do you really see it as a threat, or is it a smaller problem that is easily solvable?
I wouldn't say that no one wants to come. I see when there are jobs, opportunities in Luxembourg, and for example, we have now the procureur, the prosecutor, who was accepted Slovenia, but that's just to make a not funny joke, because it's a nightmare that they still did not appoint the prosecutor. But when they were opening jobs, people, and all the time when there are jobs, opportunities in Luxembourg, thousands of people are running for them. It's not the fact that Luxembourg is less attractive. That's wrong. The fact is, because it's not only people, because it's also when we get figures attributed to Luxembourg, I don't want that afterwards just a mailbox. It has to be also a presence. And we saw it sometimes with agencies where we had some posts dedicated to Luxembourg. They were all located in Brussels. But not only because of the money, it's also because they wanted to be closer to other civil servants. But we have three European capitals. It's Strasbourg, it's Brussels, and it's Luxembourg. And even sometimes if I fight for Strasbourg, it's also because it's in the interest of Luxembourg, to be very frank. And I know that a lot of people promote and would love that everything would be in Brussels. I'm not in favor of it. I think we have these three capitals. When I see we have the EEB here, we have the Court of Justice, we have the Court of Auditors, and we have also Commission and Parliament's offices here in Luxembourg. And the prosecutor, which is a new body, has been implemented in Luxembourg, who has been created, and he is located in Luxembourg. And I will fight for it, but and we should see, it's not, when I speak to European civil servants working here, it's not only a question of salary, it's also a question of quality of life. And usually they appreciate a lot the quality of life of Luxembourg.
Well, your colleague, Minister Jean Asselborn, the other day seemed to be saying that it wasn't that big an issue, because he said the number of EU workers has actually increased to 14,000 from 12,000 in 2015. But then there were also some people that said that those numbers weren't really trustworthy because they included EIB stuff and people such as teachers at the European schools and so on. So are you in any sense worried about this development?
No, I'm not worried because I see that there are more people coming. And I think it was an important agreement between Jean Asselborn and Kristalina Georgieva at that moment where they really fixed also the numbers and institutions and who should be when in Luxembourg, and it's going in the right direction. The only thing is, I hear that, but that's not only, and sorry to say, a European civil servants problem. It's the housing problems of Luxembourg who makes it very difficult when you come to Luxembourg to find an accommodation. But it's not only for EU civil servants. That would be too easy just to limit the problem of housing prices in Luxembourg. Costs of living in Luxembourg is one of the biggest issues, housing.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I wanted to touch upon, because if you want to make Luxembourg more attractive for international staff and EU staff, well, basically by raising the salary, aren't you asking, now put in a provocative way, the European taxpayer to come up for the difference that results from your government not being able to create more affordable housing?
You know, it's not only in Luxembourg. When you see the prices in Brussels, and you know Brussels well, they are not the same now than 5 years ago, and they are not the same than 10 years ago. It's a bit a situation where you see in all Europe, and not only Europe, that
but Prime Minister,
centers are...
Prime
just,
Minister,
if you ask a question, let me just answer. The fact is that in a lot of big agglomeration, it's everywhere that the prices of housings are getting up. And I don't like to say that taxpayers has to solve the problems. It's a national problems of housing costs. I'm now Prime Minister since 8 years. I'm trying to do everything what is possible. And we did a lot of things, but I see that the results are not the one we have. But I heard that in Paris, it's the same. I hear that in Brussels, it's the same. I hear that in Amsterdam, it's the same. Even I had a discussion with the Prime Minister of Portugal. He told me that there were local elections 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and housing prices was the biggest questions in Lisbon, because the prices explodes in Lisbon. So it's not only Luxembourg.
Prime Minister, you're right. It's not only a Luxembourg problem, but house prices went up by 17% in the first quarter in Luxembourg. That was the highest rate in Europe, almost 3 times the EU average. And in the second quarter, Luxembourg was the top fourth. You yourself have said in your State of the Union speech, you yourself have said housing is the main factor of exclusion in Luxembourg. So it is very much a Luxembourg problem.
I would be a liar if I would say that housing is not a political topic. The fact is, you have different things. The first thing is we need to build more, and on the other hand, we need to build faster. And on the other hand, we still have to live in a democratic country. So people are still able to go to court if they do not agree with the project. That's a factor, and we have big projects. We, as the public hand, will build thousands of housings in the next years, but it's not only the public hand who can build. What is important is, for example, there will be paradigm change, which is huge for Luxembourg. For example, now, when you have a place which is non-considered as constructible, if the city authorities decided to put it, or the local authorities decided to put it on the constructible, you will have a time where you have to build something, or it will be reconsidered as non-constructible. This is really I shouldn't say that, but it's a gun on the head. It's if you don't build, it will be again a field. We need to put taxations, and property is still a right, but we see that it cannot be a right which makes it impossible for other people to live. So we need to find the right balance between both. And so there will be taxes on empty apartments, empty houses. There will be taxes even through the Grundsteuer. Don't ask me in English how you say. So for grounds also. And we will, it's terrible to say for liberal, but we will need to put taxes to put people to bring things to the market and not to keep them for speculation. But we need also to be faster as a public administration. For the moment, it's a millefeuille of different authorizations that you need, and we have a cellule de facilitation in the ministry, but we need to see really how it can go faster. But for example, to tell you how difficult it is. For example, I told when I'm projecting to build something, I need to go to the Ministry of Culture, because if there are rules and history, and then the Ministry of for Environment for questions of water, or the PSG for the Ministry of Interior. And I said, okay, so why I'm not able to give one, and then we make copies, and it goes everywhere. And the fact was, my administrations told me, the different services, yes, but the impact of the decisions of one administration have an impact of the whole dossier, and so this might change. And so this where, for example, if the Cité Monument says, no, you're not allowed to build here because there is a Roman vestige or something like that, this will have an impact because I will have to build somewhere else. And then there will be maybe an impact of the Ministry of Environment. And so I try to find solutions, but for the moment we are still working on them because they are not on the table, because it's very difficult. It's when you touch somewhere, it has repercussions somewhere else.
When do you expect to the tax on empty plots of land to come into force?
Yes, I said during my speech that we will do it in the next 12 months. That was last month, so I still have 11 months left.
Good, very good.
But Prime Minister, we understood taxation was one of the taxation and the taxing of speculation, as I said, something difficult to do for a liberal, but nevertheless you announced it. Those measures as potential solutions to a dramatic situation, as you said yourself in your State of the Union, were solutions that were put forward by experts decades ago. I mean, and you've been Prime Minister for 8 years. Why start doing this now? Why not, and you said it's so complicated, why not having made this the main project of your first mandate already?
We did the last 8 years. We did a lot on housing, but I see that the results are not the result I want. So it's not enough what we did. If it was by helps, we even have sometimes the impression that when, for example, we give more helps, we raise the prices. This is what is terrible. It's when you do analyses about projects where you think these are the good one, that afterwards it's counterproductive. Mm-hmm. It's a fact, I have to admit it. I remember my predecessor said, now I will do it as a Chefsache, so it will be boss team to be the housing problem, and he was not able to change it. So this time it's really something which it's not easy, because it is a move to pay if you do not want to participate to this goal that we have to build more. And if you keep them for private, your private house should still be always exempted. I think it's you have a right, and we shouldn't punish people to have their own house. But if you have 2, 3, 4 houses and you keep I have, for example, in my street, just opposite to me, a house with 4 apartments. I think it's now empty 17 or 18 years.
Yeah.
17 or 18 years. And there are 4 flats. They could be occupied from one day to another. So I had other social issues. So it became a Fixerstuf annex. I had a lot of things. So it was, but the fact was, and they want to keep it because they said it will get more valor. It more value, and this is not a reason to keep it empty.
I think a lot of people see that in the city, and you're planning to have a register of
Yes.
flats that are empty.
Yes.
What are you going to be doing with when you see that an apartment has been empty?
There will be tax, but the tax cannot be the same every year. So, example, you have the first year will be moderate tax, but then but we are working on it, so it's not finished. But for me, if it's too little, it won't be motivating. So it has to be directly not that bad, but then it has to double or to triple or to. But we are working on it. But it has to be really initiative where, at the end of the day, you will say, "Oh, terugkeert." Also, there is no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then link it to the how prices are getting up. I mean, were we speaking 60%, 70%? It should be a tax that is similar.
Yes, but you do your work. I'm doing mine. I have 11 months to prepare it, so let me work now, because I don't want, again, that we take decisions that afterwards are counterproductive. I saw that some decisions that we took the last 20 years, where we thought, if we do this, it will help, even raise the price. I remember the former government, not this one, but the former one. For example, when we had fields, grounds on Kirchberg or somewhere else, we sold them on auctions. But by this, we raised the price by ourselves. Mm-hmm. So this was one of the first projects, must be in 2015, where we cancelled a project on Kirchberg, and we said, instead of giving it to auction, the one who will get it will be the one who will be able to build it for that price and to sell it for that price. And so we were able to be 40-50% under the normal price. I think this is how we have to work. We cannot be the one who in fact helps to raise the prices. And this was the fact, to sell, to get money, to buy new fields, but by selling our fields, we were raising the prices ourselves. So, and you think, oh yes, it's good to have the money to buy new fields, but if by that we're raising the price by ourselves, it's problematic. So we always have to think really, when you do here, it's not provoking something on the other side.
We've written about this topic quite a bit, and you come across analysis that says there's a small group of landowners in Luxembourg that sort of drip feeds constructible land into the market because they don't want house prices to go down, or they want them to go up by good percentages. Do you share that analysis, and are you doing anything to address that group of people?
If things could be built and are not getting to be built, they will have to pay. And it has to be high enough that they will have to build.
But you recognize the analysis that it's a
I'm
relatively
waiting. We are
small...
doing the, I'm sorry again, we are doing the analysis. I don't want to take conclusions before the analysis is done.
But here the question is political. I mean, have we not been defending the rights of a very small minority of landowners? And we're speaking here as a maximum estimate 2,000 people owning a lot of land against actually the big interest of the gigantic majority of people in this country.
No, but we have to be balanced too. You can be, for example, we have some agriculture who tells us that they're not able to find fields to do their job, and so and there are some agriculture. This is for some capitalist people, this would be crazy. But we have some agriculture who would be able to build, who prefer to keep it as a field. We have that. We have that. So now with the rules, if it's just for 2 years that you can build something on it, they will be able afterwards to say, we don't care, we keep it, and after 2 years it gets again non-constructible. We have that. We have some farmers who do not want to get their field constructed because they want to do their job, and it's a minority.
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
what I
minority.
wanted to say.
It
This
exists.
is not the main issue.
It exists. But now let us do our homework. We have still 11 months, or maybe a bit more. I don't know when was my last State of the Union, but it must be 11 months to be able to present. But it will be a whole panel, and I need the local authorities too. We are not able to do it by ourselves.
But Mr. Berton, to come again on this question of the interests of a majority and the rights of a minority, I mean, the OECD, an institution you value, says a succession tax could help fight against inequalities in Luxembourg, which you phrased in your State of the Union speech. Now, this will be this be something extremely difficult to make reality in Luxembourg, because a lot of Luxembourgish voters would be against it, because those are the landowners in Luxembourg, although it might be a good solution. Yeah. Do you think the fact
You have the wrong guy here for that. You have the wrong guy for that, because I believe that you already paid your taxes when you got something, and then it's not because someone just died that you have to pay again taxes. So as you can guess, I'm not in favor of succession tax for the moment.
Although it would help
no, not for the moment, but I'm for the succession tax. People pay taxes already when they got something, when they bought something, and to say now because my parents died, we have no direct taxes here when someone is dying on direct lines. I don't think that to have now in future a succession tax will be the right answer for this problem. And
despite inequalities rising. Despite inequalities in Luxembourg rising.
The COVID.
Having bigger inequalities.
Because I understood now the
COVID. No, but it's rising as well, don't worry.
No, the fact is, we should really not put everything together, because I know that there is demand from some parties to have this succession tax, and they think, for me, when it's constructible, it's constructible. When it's non-constructible, it's not constructible. And if it's constructible and you're not constructing on it, you should pay. But we shouldn't mix now everything and say that taxe de succession and droit de succession would be the answer. I believe that you paid already taxes when you bought it, and it's not because I want someone died that then you have to pay tax because he died.
This is also maybe...
But it's my personal point of view. I know that some other parties have other positions, but that's my point of view.
This is also an issue that's related to maybe where foreigners maybe that foreigners may be viewed differently than Luxembourgers, because it will be Luxembourgish family mainly that benefit from the absence of an inheritance tax, and foreigners might see this differently, right? This is an issue that.
I just can't tell. I'm Prime Minister of this country for Luxembourgers and not Luxembourgers, for people living here. And if you're Luxembourger or non-Luxembourgers, if you die in this country, you know that your children won't have to pay inheritance tax. That's, as long as I'm Prime Minister, I will fight against it.
It touches on a fundamental issue for Luxembourg, how to create broad support for government policies if you have 3 out of 4 people in the working force who don't get the vote. And I think this country would look very differently if foreigners could vote. Have you ever looked into how the political agenda would change if the vote was expanded?
So you know that I wanted to open the voting rights, and I had the result of 18% against it. So I will respect that. I want to organize a referendum every 5 years to have that question. I put it on the table. It was refused. We thought now that on local level, where you live and where you pay your tax and everything, it was important because you had a rule that you need to live a certain time in Luxembourg before being able to vote. So because it's open in Luxembourg, you have, if you compare to other countries, in a lot of European countries, or countries, you just can vote if you are Europeans. We did it bigger. In Luxembourg, you can vote wherever you come from.
But very
if you are
vague.
Swiss, if you are British, wherever you come and you are not an EU citizen, you are still allowed to vote in Luxembourg if you're American or whatever on local level. And you don't need to wait the time to live in Luxembourg at least 2, 3, or 5 years to be able to vote. But on national level, I had the result of a referendum. I lost it. I got 20% in favor and 80% again. I want to organize a new referendum.
Mm-hmm. I got that with the referendum result to just put like the votes on local elections. Luxembourg had quite a high residency clause for quite some time, which wasn't actually the rule in other EU countries. So when it comes to participation, we were kind of late. But nevertheless, the lack of vote on the national level and the lack, the impossibility for citizens to participate is causing frustration. I will quote you Brian Dunn, which is an Irish citizen in Luxembourg since living here since 1987, and one of our readers, and he wrote us a quote: "We believe people should be allowed to vote wherever they pay their taxes. Why is the Luxembourg state taking our taxes but not allowing our democratic right to vote?" So my first question is, do you understand this frustration? And my second is, okay, you said you won't have a referendum every 5 years, but is this issue of participation of residents in national politics completely off the table during your mandate?
I don't know the law in Ireland, but I don't know if I, as a Luxembourg citizen, would be able to vote for parliament elections in Ireland.
They don't have half the population as foreigners.
It's the principle. No. It's the principle. If I'm a foreigner and I'm allowed to vote or not. It's not the fact that it's 20, 30, 40, or 50%. I fully agree that it's the representativity, but it's the principle. For me, it's the principle. Do you give voting rights to people living in your country, looking about the citizenship? I tried to do it, I got no. I'm a Democrat. I've got 80% of people who said no. We opened it on local elections, much larger than in other countries, much larger, I'm proud of that, but I want to change the law. The law, 80% of people said no, so you can turn it in all sense, even if it will be more than 50. In Luxembourg City, we have 70% of non-Luxembourgers. They can vote for local elections. I'm sad that we do not see more people registered to vote and also to participate in the political life. But on national level, it has been refused by a referendum, and I will stay with the no. I want to organize a new referendum, and I won't change the law. I would have preferred. You don't need to convince me. I was in favor of it. I did promote, but I live in a democracy. We had a referendum. Over 80% of the population said no, so it's no.
I'm not trying to convince you. I know that you...
No, you don't need to convince me.
But I'm just saying that you as a prime minister, and you speak, we are in a democracy, where in a time not so far away, we will have a minority of people choosing about what to do with the tax. A majority of people excluded of the vote will generate. So wouldn't that be, despite of any referendum, a bigger democratic issue for this country you're prime minister of?
We saw a lot of people who got double citizenship too, because they wanted to participate also to the political life in Luxembourg. And it's not the rule that we had 15 years ago when you got where double citizenship was not possible. So if someone is living here, he has not that difficult also to get all the voting rights of a national, but to open the voting rights is no. I had the referendum, and I respect the referendum.
But let me try to get at it from a the different angle. I understand the principle, I understand the democratic principle, I understand that you're in favor, actually, yourself, and I understand the democratic principle behind it. But here you have a country that relies to a large degree on foreign workers. They come here to work for the European Union. They come here to work in finance. They come here to work here in space. All those, and there is a substantial group who comes here to work in the healthcare sector. All these people, none of these people can vote for the policies that you're implementing, that you're responsible for. Is that a sustainable model for a country?
The fact is, I see that a lot of them got the citizenship, a lot. We see the figures. It would be interesting to have the figures of the last 10 years to see how many people get more the citizenship also in the country. It's a different way to be able to participate. I would have preferred the other way, but I've got the referendum, and it is like that. I cannot change. I'm sorry. The referendum was not 51-49. It was 80-20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's, now that we are on the Luxembourgish level, let's touch upon a topic you could, or you have changed. We'll see that. Luxembourg still seems, it seems unable to get rid of its image as a tax haven. Every 3 months, latest, there comes a new study by an international consortium of journalism saying, well, the things we said we got rid of are still happening. Does it bother you?
No, the fact is, I have to admit that when I started, my country was on less colorful list than today. Gray and black was mostly the colors of the list we were on it, but we are not, we are for the moment, we are compliant. We even, on ECD level, on international level, on European level, are not the one blocking. So for me, we did a long way. I remember when Pierre and myself said that we need to change things and to be compliant and to be more transparent. We got a lot of calls and mails and messages from the place that we would it would be the end of Luxembourg and we would disappear as financial place. I can tell you that if we wouldn't have done our homeworks, we would have been big in troubles. And I think it was the right decisions to do it. And when I see it last week, I launched with Commissioner Hahn also the green bonds, the European green bonds by the Commission. It was the social bonds before for billions. So I really can see that we are a place where people trust. We are efficient, but we are fulfilling the international conditions. I know that for some people it's never enough, it should be more. For me, it's level playing field, which is very important. And I still believe that if we need to do things, we need to do them together. And OCD is much better than just the 27 of us, to be frank.
But for the reputation of the country, this year alone, we've had Open Lux in February, Lux Letters in July, Pandora Papers in October. Does it bother you?
No. No.
Okay.
It was 2 lines in the papers. If I see, it was when we speak about what was the last one? I even can't remember the name. Pandora Box, Pandora Papers.
Pandora Papers.
Yeah, you see, I still even can't remember the name. So Luxembourg was really a line in the things that some people would use Luxembourg to do things which are not illegal. So, but the fact was not Luxembourg in the eye of the cyclone. So I didn't have political reactions. I didn't have international big troubles. So people see that Luxembourg did the homework, and but we see that other countries are more now in the scope of these things. But we did what we had to do.
Okay, but it's not just journalists saying this. The OECD has also been critical when I think that was at the time the Open Lux papers came out. The Commission regularly singles out Luxembourg, together with other European countries, for aggressive tax planning. Luxembourg was dragging its heels over the public country-by-country reporting. Pierre Gramagna came out and says, well, all this criticism of the country comes from jealousy. People are jealous of our financial market. Is that seriously the message that your country wants to give?
No, for me, it's not a question of jealousy. It's the fact, or you are compliant or you are not compliant. It's compliant or not compliant, and Luxembourg is compliant. it's not because we have some products which are more attractive, and some countries would love to have they would love to have rules which is just in their interest. And the fact is, but they have other interests on other topics. So it's sure that you want to be more competitive on some different topics, and financial products is one of the speciality of Luxembourg. And I remember when when I started in the European Council, if it was with David Cameron or with Boris Johnson or Theresa May, we always had someone who believes that a strong financial place in Europe is important. I don't want tomorrow that Hong Kong, Dubai, Zurich, and other countries, other financial places are the strongest one. I also believe that we need strong financial places in Europe. And now we have one inside Europe, we have one next to Europe, and it's in the interest of us that we have also the capacities to have interesting products inside our walls. And it's, we have debates on taxations, minimal taxations. Luxembourg belongs to the first country to say, okay. So we are not blocking. When I see, for example, about the GAFA, where there was a huge discussion, Luxembourg was not one of the last countries to block on the European level. Mm-hmm. So we are really, but we want a level playing field. I'm very honest. I will defend my financial place, Luxembourg, and I want that we have rules which are the same for all of us. I don't want that we have rules here that are more strict than we have in Delaware, or that we have in London, that we have in Holland, or in Dublin, or in other European or non-European countries. If we have one, we should have a level playing field which is the same for all of us, and not just this and this in this country.
All right, I understand the argument, Mr. Prime Minister, that you don't want as Luxembourg to be disadvantaged, but the political problem remains. Don't you see that too much tax planning, as they call it, we could also call it tax evasion, is harmful for the political stability within the European Union, because it sparks a debate on inequalities as well, and on rich people doing things normal people can't?
The fact is, it is, if it's legal, it's one thing. On the other hand, taxation should be a fair taxation, and it's difficult for someone who wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning and to tell him that he has to work 12 hours, yet he has to pay 47 or 48% of taxes, in some countries even more, and someone else is not paying taxes at all. But then you have the legal principle, and then you have the political acceptable principles. I don't want to be the place where people just make structures to avoid all the taxes.
Well, the OECD, the Commission, a lot of people say that's the case in Luxembourg.
No. So if you want to make, I don't want now to make name and shame, but you know exactly that it's not only Luxembourg.
Not only, but it is as well.
Yeah.
As you just
yes, but it's legal. But you have to make a difference between legal and then the principle. You know that we raised the taxes also in Luxembourg on a lot of structurations the last years, and we make it also transparent. For example, we were blamed. I think, which papers was it now? We were blamed because we were transparent. Some other European countries, we were one of the very few countries who did all the registrations transparent, that you were able to see them.
Supervision was rather problematic.
Yeah, I cannot invent 1,000 new controllers from one day to another. I have a staff. We raised the staff in the tax administration. We raised the staff in the Ministry of Finance. We raised the staff in the justice to have more supervision. But we were transparent. We still have some countries who are not transparent at all. And so I think we had a lot of homework. We still have homeworks to be done. But we took the right decisions to be compliant. But I don't. To be compliant doesn't mean that I have to be not competitive. I will stay competitive in the compliance.
The point I'm trying to get at, it's not only about whether what companies are doing is legal. It's also about fair taxation. It's about growing inequality. Luxembourg is a very small country which has an outsized financial industry, which is great from an economic point of view. But it will always bring criticism to Luxembourg. Hey, companies come here because of a tax, some kind of a tax advantage, transfer pricing and so on. You'll always have the criticism that Luxembourg is stealing tax revenue from other countries.
I will get criticism always. You know, I have companies, they were 7, they are now 3,000. When I see international companies, well, for me it's important that we have substance in Luxembourg. We stop this politic of the last the years before, where a mailbox was enough and you had 200 companies located in one office with one person. That's over. I want substance, and I want to be competitive. And if there is substance in Luxembourg and there is the stuff in Luxembourg, I don't know why it should be forbidden to be successful in Luxembourg. And we have this substance now, and the companies are moving to Luxembourg. And what was right before, where you just had an address and nothing, I visit a lot of companies. They have substance, they have people, they have staff, they have a business they do here in Luxembourg. So I'm sorry, to be successful sometimes I have the feeling to have. And that's terrible. It's terrible to be successful, and we are successful. And we have companies moving. When there was the Brexit, instead, when there was the Brexit, for example, we wanted, because I believe that the UK are still partners. Some countries wanted to cut everything with the UK. I believe that it's important to work together to see how we can be complementary with the UK also, to be able to have this exchange and to not to weaken each other, because if one is good, the other can also be good. And so we tried always to be this bridge also with the other partners. And now I don't like to blame and shame and to name and shame and to name and blame. And that's a problem that we have today. For me, we have international rules. We respect the international rules. We have regulations. We respect the regulations, but I will still be competitive in the regulatory framework, and we will continue to be an attractive financial place. I won't give up the financial place Luxembourg, just that few people think, oh, now this is good, they give up everything. We have people, we have good people, we have competitive products, we have competitive people who are doing legal work, who can be criticized by one or the others, will be...
But the Commission challenges legality for, and it won some cases, it lost another, but...
Yeah, but they lost some cases too.
Yeah, but won others.
They lost also some others. And when things has been done which are not okay, you have seen that we respect the decisions also.
So basically, you agree with Pierre Gramagna, who said it's jealousy. Other countries are
Usually
jealous of our
always
success.
agree with my Minister of Finance. That's a big principle.
Well, you're his boss. So
Usually I always agree with all my ministers, but I know how difficult it was for Pierre also the last year, because we inherited also, when you speak about succession and inheritance tax, but we inherited a lot of topics which were difficult topics. We decided that Luxembourg has to change. I'm very happy that we did these changes when at the beginning, and also the opposition told us, you will destroy the financial place, this will be the end of the financial place, and etc., and etc. And I'm very proud that we did it, and we are still able to be competitive. And if we wouldn't have done it, I'm sure we would have been in big problems today.
So it's a problem you inherited it, and it's
not inherited. We should not blame also for what we did, which was a system which was at that time, at that moment, it was okay. It was okay. I won't now blame Pierre Werner, I won't blame Gaston Thorn, I won't blame Jacques Santer, and I won't blame Jean-Claude Juncker for what has been done in Luxembourg. I think this country was a country where we had different models. We were always able to move to niches. When we found some niches, we directly jumped into it with SES, with today the funds, with yesterday the structurations. But it was at that moment what was able, and we are able to move. We are first mover and able to be competitive in niches. But as soon as bigger countries discover that there are niches, they try to say, "Oh, this is not good." So you have to stop them.
I think we need to move on. But you're willing to live with the criticism that there is still out there.
Yes. Yes. But because I see the evaluation, and the evaluation says compliant. I was grey and black. I'm much more colorful today.
But you have a veto on those lists. That makes it kind of easier, no, to not get on it.
No, it's not because of a veto of one or another country. It's the fact that I don't want to have in Europe where few countries decided what is good for the others. I want in Europe where we're able to move on. When there are decisions to take in the interest of the European Union, we never vetoed, but it would be a shame to think that 2 or 3 countries now would be able to decide what is good for the 24, 23 other countries. I know that majorité qualifiée, it's not 3 or 4 countries, but you know what I mean. The fact is, when there are decisions to take on European level, Luxembourg the last years didn't block, and was always constructive to find solutions. I spoke about the GAFA and digital taxations, where Luxembourg agreed by one of the first countries First countries, and it was still blocked since a few weeks ago.
It took some time. At the beginning, Gamina was
but we
against
needed
it.
but we need to be able to discuss and to exchange. It's not because one country comes with an idea that we directly have to jump and say, oh, great. We need to be able to discuss, to know what, again, it's like the taxations I told you before with the housing. When you say what is the repercussion? What can be the suite? I'm sorry for my English, but what are the consequences of a decision? And so, but we decided, we were one of the first mover from this, there were 6 or 7 or 8 countries who said no, we were the first one to say, okay, let's do it.
I have a related issue. However much I like to talk about tax, I have a related issue, and has to do with the reputation of some of the holding companies that come to this country. We've seen the Pegasus software was partially run out of a company based here in Kirchberg. NSO has a fairly sizable presence. MindGeek is one of the companies that is controversial around the world, that is based in Luxembourg. It strengthens the impression that you can come to Luxembourg and do business and not too many questions asked. Is it time for better due diligence?
But again, in the Pegasus case, it was not from Luxembourg that they did the business. It was clear, and it's not from here that this program... because I don't want to defend Pegasus now, but I just want to tell you that at the beginning, the program of Pegasus is a program to be able to go into computers for terrorism and for specific points. That some governments bought the product and misused it, they misuse it to control journalists and other people, is not what has to be done, and it's unacceptable. When I see that other governments makes controls over other politicians or of their own politicians, opposition or journalists, it's really a shame. But the fact that the product, and I can tell you that as a secret service, we also need to be able to have all the opportunities to prevent terrorist attacks. And there is also a Trojaner, how we call it, a Trojan horse, one of the possibilities. And I need to sign the green lights when we use them, but I'm happy that we have at least a possibility where there is no other way to get the information that is needed.
I have 2 points about that. First of all, you said NSO didn't do any business from here. Well, they say they didn't, but Minister Asselborn also said he had no way to check that. We have to trust them on that, right?
No, but the fact is the product is not illegal. But I tell you again, the product, it's the fact that you sell a product which makes it possible to. But when you buy, I don't want to make now to compare things. You can buy a gun if you go in a shooter club. But if you kill someone with the gun, you did something illegal. They sell you a product which makes it possible to go in your computer, to control your computer. It's very special. But it is, for example, for Luxembourgish law, very strictly limited where you can use it. And it was just used for anti-terrorism, and there is exactly the rules, and it has been done like that. If other governments decided to buy these products to spy oppositions, journalists, and other people, it's a scandal. It's a scandal. Right. But it's the fact that they bought it to misuse it. But at the beginning, when we bought it, it was for reasons of state security.
But did you say that to NSO, that it's a scandal that software was abused?
For me, I know that some countries misuse the products, and I think this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable.
Did you say that to NSO? They're based here.
The fact is, they sell it to someone. I told you, should I blame Glock or Brown or everyone who sold you one thing and you misuse it?
Selling guns enhances hazards.
No, but I told you, I don't want to give examples because I knew how you are and you will explain it how you wanted to use it. It's the same with any products. That you buy, you can buy. You can go to Cactus, so that's more Luxembourgish. You can go to Cactus and you buy a product for your household, and you can give it to someone to poison him. But Cactus can be considered as selling you a product which has been used on the wrong way. But the fact is, this is very intrusive. I fully agree that it's a very sensitive matter of this Trojaner. But the fact is, at the beginning, as a state, we bought it for secret services and state safety. And for me, we use it. I have to be able to tell you that we use products where we are able to have intrusive methods to get information.
But the question is, do you think Luxembourg should have more due diligence of these holding companies or whatever these corporate structures are that come to the country to see whether they stick to human rights?
Again, the products they sold at the beginning was not forbidden. It was the use which is not correct.
Yeah.
So if I would have all the time to see what has been done with the product afterwards, I can, on paper, it can be okay. But if someone who buys it misuse it, but this is very sensitive questions, and don't take it bad if I don't want to speak now here if it's good or not good. I think Minister Asselborn said what has to be said on that topic, also with Sam Thomson last week in Parliament, where there was a question about that. But let me tell you that at the beginning, this program is not a forbidden program. But what they use and how they use it is not acceptable.
If we abstract from the example of NSO, in general, do you think Luxembourg needs a due diligence for companies that come to the country, like France has?
Or it's against the law or not, and the fact is we have more rules for the moment that we had a few years ago about investments in Luxembourg. We have more rules.
Yeah, let's use the last 5-10 minutes we have to another big topic for Luxembourg, as your State of the Union showed. I mean, Luxembourg wants to present itself as one of the leading finance hub for green funds, though, yeah, the country isn't really one of the cleanest countries in Europe. On the contrary, we have the biggest carbon footprint. We're the second country in the world reaching overshoot day. I mean, wouldn't we have to do our homework first before lecturing the world about green finance?
We are working on it.
How?
For example, the last 5 years, we were able to raise the production of renewable energy to 11%. It's still not enough. We want to go to 30% till 2030. But the fact was, this last year was the first year we were able to have all households' energy by renewable energy. So that's the first thing. But this is not how we produce. The fact is how we use less also energy. So this is the first topic, how we can reduce also the CO2 production in Luxembourg. Everybody has their own role, how you build your house, how you use heat. Everybody is a part of the solution. We did, so it helps when I see, for example, the bicycle roads. This sounds now strange, but I think we built it 300 or 400 new kilometers, and now again 400 or 500 new kilometers. So this is to have an alternative. We have subsidies for the pedelec and also for electric cars, which is too successful. And I'm sorry for everybody listening to us who still is waiting for his money from the Ministère de l'Environnement.
Yeah.
And I know that there is a long queue. But the success was much bigger than we planned. How we built, we spoke before of housing, and that's also because when we want to build differently, sometimes it's more expensive too. So but we need to do it if we want also to be active on environmental questions. Then we have the free public transportation in Luxembourg, which is important. We raised also the investment in the rail a lot because we cannot say to people you should avoid the car and then we do not do the necessary work to be able to have also public transportation which is efficient and you can trust. But it's the industry is. I visited some companies and I had, for example, a big discussion with Guardian. Guardian is a good example. Guardian wanted to they produce glass in Luxembourg, and but they are able today to produce differently than before. They are one of the big consumer of electricity, and they produce differently, and they know that they can do it differently. And so for us, it's important as state also to support companies investing in different ways of industry, because economy and ecology are not enemies. Very often we think that green and business are enemies. I think there are huge opportunities, and we need to produce differently, and we are doing differently.
Yes, exactly. This is you framed it that way also in your State of the Union speech, because one of the main topic behind this, the solution to the green transition is sustainable growth. So keeping growth high, but making it green. To a lot of people, like the Mouvement Écologique, this is a contradiction in terms that doesn't question actually what we should do to pollute less. And isn't it not time just to get people out of their cars onto bikes more radically? Isn't it time, as Rita asked us, to make Luxembourg car-free, the city center?
No.
Why not?
No, because we have people who still have no public transportation. We have people who works during the night. We have people who lives in villages where there is no public transport. So to think that the car will be out of Luxembourg is pure populism, because there are some people who have no choices, because they have to have a car to be able to live, because they have no train, they have no bus, and they have nothing else. But the fact is, we should propose alternatives. And so for it, this sounds, for example, very strange, but for example, a lot of commuters come and they park then on Luxembourgish side because the public transportation is free from Luxembourg side, but not from France or from Belgium. So now we found an agreement, for example, with France that also on the French park and ride, the public transportation will be free from there, so people will park also there. These are small things, but also
they come rather late in the mandate as well.
The Landesplanung also is important to build also close, not everything here in the city, and to build also around the country, and to have more of economic spots on different parts of the country. So there are a lot of things, but to say that the car will disappear, no. The fact is we
you reduced. That's what I
reduced. Yes. No, you said no cars. You said car-free
out of the
country.
City center.
Yeah, but
Can I read
also,
what they?
You know, when people go to buy, I remember people when they go for shopping in the town. I try to take my public transportation as much as possible, but you have also to know and to find the right balance. I don't want to forbid. You know, it's politically we forbid. I would love to make people realize that they are part of the solutions and they come with, and not to forbid. I prefer to promote, to encourage, to encourage.
Same word.
To prefer to encourage and than to forbid everything. I
Prime
don't
Minister,
like
we
to be
never
Prime
said
Minister.
forbidding everything.
I don't like to forbid.
Prime Minister, can I read something that a reader sent to us? Somebody called Guy Thackeray. We are a small country. Why can't we be a beacon to the world by leading the green revolution? Stop all cars coming into the main towns unless electric. Provide non-stop buses from the border into town so that we become the first carbon neutral country in the world.
Because not everybody can afford now an electrical cars. We still have persons who have no electrical cars. We support, for the moment, we have, I think it's 20 or 30% of the new immatriculations we are electric, which is fantastic, and we support. But stop to forbid. You know, to buy a new car is expensive, so we should do the transition, and we are in a transition, and we should support the transition, and we should. I don't want to be the one who forbids. We will. The cars will. We know that there won't be any production anymore. I think it's 2030 in Europe that there won't be again cars produced with a normal motor. But just accompany people. Try to avoid to forbid.
But
I'm sorry for
work.
that.
I mean, look at the traffic jams, look at how many cars people own. I mean, I'm not saying forbidding cars, but I'm just asking you if there's an issue.
Luxembourg
For
has the
example,
highest car
if you
ownership.
do on highways, when we did these special ways for the bus, when you have in the morning, you take your car at 7 o'clock, and you are from 7:30 to 8:30 in a traffic jam, and you see the bus just rolling next to you, and you see your colleague in the bus, and when you arrive, they already had 2 coffees, they were able to have half an hour of chat, so maybe the next day you will take also the bus. But so you have to have alternatives which are more efficient, which are safe, and where you can trust. And usually in Luxembourg, you can trust the civil service. If they are late, it's because of traffic, but it's not because they were on strike,
Yeah, but in
what
Fantoche,
we know
there's no
from other
bus lane.
countries.
I mean, even the bus infrastructure is rather thin, and the bike. Well, we're lagging behind. It's what I want to say.
I don't think we are really behind. When I see, for example, how many non-polluting buses we use in Luxembourg, I think we belong to the countries which are very ambitious and who did a lot of work the last years. I remember when I was the mayor, there was done the bus who did a lot of dump, of fumée, of
Yeah,
smoke, a lot of smoke, but it was water.
We can
It was,
speak about that too as
it,
well.
it was, and this was clean buses, but they did 3 times more smoke because it was with water. But you see, all these things.
all right,
which
but
I think it's good what we do. For example, the bus who turns in the city is an electrical bus, a small one. So we do lots. We need also to be efficient on charger, because it's very good to sell electrical cars, but when people are not able to charge their cars, they get into big trouble. So I remember when I was the mayor, we promoted, for example, that you were allowed to have 100 parking spots, but if you do electrical, they will be on top on them. So you see, there are a lot of things, and we do that also as government, where we will build now. I don't have to figure exactly how many new electrical super turbo stations we are preparing, but there is all the times new things to be done.
I understand
and
that
we
you
do
say
that.
you don't want to forbid the cars, but we're running out of time. But it's a little bit worse than that, right? Luxembourg has the cheapest petrol in Western Europe. It has the highest car ownership per capita.
The gap is much more different. You know, I can
It's
tell
not
you
a
because
situation where you need
spoke
to
about
commit.
Pierre Gramegna, and I speak a lot to Pierre Gramegna. The taxations, because of the fuel, we earned a lot of money with Belgian trucks. They came and they took the fuel in Luxembourg. That's over because the differential is so small. It was a huge difference a few years ago, but it's not anymore the fact, because we wanted to get out of this fuel tourism. So it's the figures that you took the last 10 years are not the same today. And it's a fact, fuel tourism can be a future income of a country. So we reduce it, and the difference is not as big as it was.
Do you see it as a problem that Luxembourg has the highest car ownership per capita in Europe?
The highest?
The highest, people have the most cars in Europe per head.
Maybe
Uh,
I won't forbid to people to buy a car.
No, but
I won't forbid.
2 Audis?
Two?
2 Audis or 1 Audi?
I'm sorry for that. I think people are free to do. It's the same, you know, when we say that we are the richest country in Europe with the income, we should not forget that the income is calculated on what is produced, but not divided by the people working here, but just living here. And you know, we have 200,000 people coming to work every day, so it's nearly 25% of the population, which are not considered when we do this calculation. So there are so many things. So I don't know if you take the car also bought in Arlon, in Thionville, and in Trier, who are registered here. So I don't know which one we calculated, but I don't want to live in a country where I control. You have one car, you have one child, you have one phone, you have one fridge, you have one motorcycle. No. Let people live also, but we need to convince them, we need to help them, we need to motivate them to participate. But I don't want to be prime minister where I say, this is the royal family, and you have to look like this, live in this space, with this car, with this food, with this. Let people breathe. So.
Maybe because you spoke about smoke and you seem to like non-prohibiting, your government.
Ooh,
second
that's
one,
a
when it
nice
came-
way to come to cannabis. I'm
yeah,
feeling
yeah.
it. I'm feeling it that you are coming to cannabis.
Do you
Nice
spell
way
it?
to come.
Because you promised, and it was one of the biggest, I think, the flagship reforms you promised, the legalization of cannabis. Now it won't happen. There's no other way to put it. It won't happen. What went wrong? You said there was EU law in the way. Well, you are a lawyer. Shouldn't you have known already when you voted in the government program?
I think it's a first step, so it's not over, and it's going. I read the international press. You are maybe disappointed. The other are all surprised about this modern way we go. The fact is that we don't want to criminalize smokers. That when you smoke your joint, you are not considered as a criminal.
At all.
That's over. That's over. When you produce at your house and you are allowed to. I'm sure we will discover a lot of new jardiniers in Luxembourg's people, and who will love to do their gardens. And so when you smoke and you're at home and you don't take the car, because I really insist on that. It's not because you
If you
smoke.
have 2 Audis.
Yeah, but the fact is that people are allowed to produce themselves at home. They don't sell it, and they can smoke at home for their private use. And this is what we wanted. So
You
the fact
promised
that-
more in the program. Mr.
Yes, but
Vettel.
this is a first step. This is a first step. I think it's an important step that if you want to smoke your joint, you can produce it at your house. You don't need to go on the criminal market where you will finance a whole band behind. You will be able to produce yourself your products where you know what is in, because nowadays you buy a lot of chemicals and non-natural products, and so you can smoke and you are happy, and that's what, for me, what is important. And it's not because we have no coffee shops that it's not good. I think this way for a first step is an important step where people who want to smoke can smoke, and they can produce at their house, and they are non-criminals, and they don't need to do a criminal act to buy it, and they don't support criminal bans. And so for me, it's a good solution as a first step, and we will see. We will see how it continues, and if it goes in the right direction, and we see that we were able to reduce the black market, and we can discuss about other topics. But this is the first step. We agreed, all of us, and especially after all the discussions we had with specialists and everything. So I'm very happy. So it is décorrectionnalisé, don't ask me in English, but decorrectionalized, or something like that. And but this is for me a first step in the right direction. And the aim is that someone who wants to smoke is not anymore a criminal.
And at least we will get some people out of the cars, because when you're stoned, you can't drive, you're saying.
When you smoke, you can't. You can't fly neither, but the fact is, for me, it's the principle that someone who, and we see that for some people to smoke is important for them. Also, for it's the therapeutic point also of the grass is there, and we don't criminalize people. So if people will blame to say it's not enough, it's too much. For me, we should still protect the use, and we should not criminalize people who are smoking. And now with these 4, and I heard that 4 plants is a lot, and I'm sure that we will discover a lot of new people who will go to Cactus Hobby and to Jardiland to be the new gardener of tomorrow. Yes. And for me, it's the first step in the right direction, and I'm proud that we were able to do it.
Prime Minister, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being at Time to Talk at the Luxembourg Times, and thanks for answering all our questions.
Thank you very much, and see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.